Hello, my name is Wyatt, and I'm going to be presenting on 3D printers. So what is a 3D printer? So a 3D printer is a device that takes a file and creates a 3D object by creating it layer by layer. It will do this in a fashion like on the top right, you will see there is a nozzle there, can be in different diameters, and that diameter will dictate the width of the layer line. So as you see on that bottom image, that is a little boat. It's called a Benchy boat. It's a very common test print for any 3D printer that you may have. And you can see that the lines that it creates is very big. That's because the diameter on the nozzle that print that was 1.2 millimeters. Typically you'll see 0.6 like up top or zero point 0.4. These are very, very common nozzle sizes. And 3D printing is known as additive manufacturing, whereas machining might be or would be subtractive manufacturing. So how does it all work? So you would take a file that you have designed, or a file that has been downloaded off of a website. Some of these websites might be Printables, Thingiverse, MakerWorld, very common things here. You would then take that file and slice it. You would use a slicer software known as Prusa Slicer or Cura. Many different softwares exist, but I find the most popular to be Prusa Slicer. You would then orient the part how you want it, and you would click Publish here. And the part file, like the Benchy we discussed earlier, would be the top right, and the slicer software would be the top left. That slicer software is Prusa Slicer. So your printer needs to communicate these um, these codes in a way to where the 3D printer can read it. So we use a code known as G code. And fun fact, this G code is the same programming language that you will find on a CNC mill or a CNC lathe, different manufacturing machines out there. The common code is G code. Now, you're going to need a material to create your print. So what are you going to use? PLA, PETG, resin, nylon. PETG is the most common plastic you'll find in disposable water bottles. So oftentimes you'll find that these filaments will be recycled, which is good for the environment. Types of 3D printers. So there are many different ways to 3D print an object, one of which might be FDM, which stands for Fused Deposition Modeling. On the image on the top right is my 3D printer. That's an Ender 3. And as you can see, the filament roll will feed down into the nozzle, which is the big black thing kind of in the center of it. And it'll heat it up and melt it down, and the build plate and the nozzle will move in various directions based off of your G code to create your part you would like. An SLA printer, also known as a stereolithography printer, that would be the photo on the top left. Those use nylon, resin. Those printers use resin. And how that works is they cure the resin with UV light. And the image, or the cure, would be the image of each layer. So just as an FDM printer stacks layer lines on each other, an SLA printer would stack the layer lines through the image of the UV light, then creating your desired part. SLS printers, also known as selective laser sintering printers, use a laser that fuses metal powder almost like a welder. These printers can produce metal parts. These parts can be used on aircraft or race cars or any other situation where a metal part might be desired. This is an EOS metal printer. This is what Malin Community College has at the Yancey campus. A brief history of 3D printing. So in the 1980s, Chuck Hull invented the first 3D printer. It was an SLA 3D printer. That image is the middle image. In 2005, RepRap, an open source project, allowed many people to create their own 3D printers without having to buy one. That is the image on top, which was an FDM 3D printer. And today, we see many different variations of 3D printers. One of the most popular is being Bambu Lab, which is an FDM 3D printer. Why does any of this matter? Before you want to manufacture a part, it's typically nice to see it in reality to where you can hold it and see how it would feel. This is where 3D printing comes in. You could machine your part if you wanted, but that's expensive, and sometimes people don't have the money to do that. So, people will 3D print their part, see how it works, then machine it. It's used, 3D prints can be used in medical applications, knee replacements, socket or hip socket replacements. Anytime where a very specific shape is required, a 3D printer might be used. Conclusion. 3D printing can really change the aspects of manufacturing for the good. It can help the earth by recycling plastics that we no longer need and reuse them for things that are helpful. And it allows us to be creative. Here are my sources, and thank you for listening.